Hey guys, today I'm just gonna talk. I never just talk, so I'm just gonna talk. I'm about a year to a year and a half away from being a registered dietitian in the US, and this is always on my mind, but I've been seeing lots of things on the media, which, first things first, the media is the enemy. It is just a terrible method to hype things up for everyone. It just hypes up the most extreme ends of everything. So that's something to keep in mind this whole time, because I'm not saying dietitians are underappreciated by the healthcare team or by other professionals that work side by side with the dietitian. I'm saying some people in the general public, and especially those on the media, are extreme in saying becoming a dietitian is a waste of time. It is a waste of your energy, waste of going to a dietitian if you're looking for nutrition help. And this has become super exaggerated, it feels like, or maybe it's just showing up more on my media because I'm interested in looking at what people have to say about nutrition and dietitians and things like that, so it pops up for me. Maybe that's it. But recently I've just been seeing how a lot of people in the general public just do not trust dietitians anymore, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't trust a dietitian who only promotes Fritos, only promotes Kellogg's, only promotes PepsiCo. You know what I'm saying? So if that is your only reference of a dietitian, or the dietitians on the media who say no food's bad, you should feed your kids anything they want, anything they'll eat, whatever, I would totally be suspicious as well. This video is mostly to let you guys know I'm totally with you and I see what you're seeing, and trying to distance myself from what I've learned in dietetic school versus what I imagine you would see if you only saw that as your dietitian pool of reference. I totally get it. I for real don't blame people who do not trust dietitians' advice, and it's a shame because I feel like everybody who goes into a nutrition field or the nutrition field has good intent. They want to help people. They're interested in good nutrition. They're not trying to steer people in the wrong direction for their health until money gets in the way, is how it seems. I've seen some videos, and I might put a clip here.
This video shows how dietitians are paid to brainwash us into buying ultra-processed foods.
So let's start with just the basics of what makes a healthy school lunch.
Anything that your kids are gonna eat. Okay. You really want them to eat things that they're gonna love.
I think there's a lot of healthy misconceptions, especially with the way things are labeled. These companies trying to trick you into thinking something's healthy, right?
Yeah, all foods are good foods, so you want kids to have balance.
All right.
So again, focusing on things that they really like. I pulled a lot of things that are like easy to grab and go.
Prepackaged.
Yes, so kids can actually make their own lunches.
Okay.
I have like dark chocolate peanut butter.
I've never seen, I've seen Nutella, but this is different. I would love to know what you say no to. Is there anything?
Actually say no to anything.
Really?
And these clips of dietitians promoting on TV, on social media, on things like that, these big brands under big food, Fritos, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, I don't know, all of these huge companies that control our food supply, our processed food supply at least, and if not, the USDA controls our agriculture, and I'm already sus about the USDA and the FDA, very sus. And dietitians and nutrition school teaches us to follow these governing bodies to kind of guide our nutrition practice and guide what we tell people down here, and that is very suspicious to me, and I have been ever since undergrad. Hey guys, I'm editing this video, but I thought I'd show you this paragraph that was circulating around a year ago by the Washington Post and the Examination, who looked into the food, beverage, and dietary supplement industries to see that they're paying dozens of registered dietitians, healthcare professionals, to promote their products. And I wanted to show you this, even though it's a little bit old, it's still relevant. I'll put a link to the exact article in the description box if you're interested in reading the whole thing. And here's another article showing how the food industry is kind of piggybacking off of health professionals to increase their credibility, which isn't quite working, but here's this if you want to read this as well. I'll put it in the description too. I have an undergraduate degree, 4-year bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics. I'm in my master's right now for the same thing, nutrition and dietetics. Later, I will take the RD exam, registered dietitian exam, that kind of certifies you. Okay, now you're a registered dietitian. Next, you have to get licensed in whatever state you want to practice in. And it's a whole long, huge process now. And that master's degree requirement is brand new. It's a brand new requirement. January 1st, 2024 is when everybody who wants to become a dietitian must get must get a master's degree now. It didn't used to be that way. Everybody who is a registered dietitian and only got a 4-year degree have been grandfathered in. They don't have to go back to school to get a master's degree to continue to practice. But with that master's degree inclusion, I'm just kind of ranting about all of this. This is not the direction I was trying to go when I was talking about all this, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Now that we have the master's degree requirement, that's an extra 2 years of school. It is obviously more expensive to become a dietitian now. It takes more time, and the jobs are not paying more. Unless you go into private practice, I guess, or whatever, but dietitians are looking for ways to make more money now that people aren't paying as much. I mean, they're paying the same amount in general across the US. I've looked on Indeed, Glassdoor, things like that. The salary for a dietitian is about median $60K to $75K a year. And you can make less than that as a dietitian. You can make more than that as a dietitian, but in general, that's like the salary range, annual salary range. And now having to get a master's degree makes that salary this much lower. And that's not a bad salary, but if you understand that as the cap, like that's it. You know, you can be a dietitian for 2 years or 15 years, and that is your range. You know what I'm saying? So the more experience you have, you don't really have much room to grow. If you want to stay in clinical dietetics, if you want to stay in public health or community nutrition, you have a cap no matter how much experience you get, and that is so aggravating, especially now that master's is required now. So it's not even like, oh, you have a master's degree, let me offer you more money. It's a requirement now. All that to say, I get dietitians are looking for ways to get more money, and it's such a shame because I guess big food can get a grip on some of these dietitians and be like, hey, you're a dietitian, promote these foods in this TV ad or on this newscast show or on this social media site, and we will give you this much money just for making this one little video promoting Cheerios, promoting Quaker, promoting whatever it may be. And that's just my thought behind it, that might be what's happening, because I know dietitians, just like from my peers and my professors and other mentors that are dietitians who work in clinical or something, not every dietitian is like that. And part of being a dietitian and any medical professional really is reading into the literature and connecting the dots. It's really easy to look black and white into some of these things we're taught in school. Like, for example, I think about this a lot. In school, we're taught, yes, in general, everyone should decrease their salt intake because in the US there's so much salt everywhere, especially in highly processed foods. But if you read into the literature, some people are more salt sensitive than others, and we also learn that in school. And so sometimes salt has very little influence on your cardiovascular health if you have a low sensitivity to salt. Other people, a high sensitivity to salt may be their biggest factor in their hypertension diagnosis, or, you know, things like that. And there's so much literature on this stuff if you want to go look at it, but that's like a little nuance, and people can just get focused on one thing, like, oh, just lower your salt intake because you have hypertension. That's all you need to do in your diet. That's not really a good broad thing to suggest to somebody. Maybe we should look at the bigger picture. What are you eating every day? Are you eating a bunch of processed foods with hydrogenated oils and sugar, salt, all of those things combined? And is that really the problem? It's not really the salt. Don't just get the lower sodium canned soup or ramen. That's just not going to help you long term. You need some more of the other electrolytes. You need more potassium, magnesium to balance that out with the salt. You need less saturated fat from highly processed foods. You need less sugar. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? In the medical world as a whole, we're moving less and less towards the reductionism, I think is what it's called as a whole. Like, we're moving away from just doing one thing to treat one certain aspect of health, and we're trying to broaden it out finally to be way more holistic in our approach to healthcare. But at the same time, when we are governed by big pharma and big food and these governing bodies who probably don't have our health in their best interest, they have money in their best interest, and that's just real. Because money rules the world, health doesn't rule the world. I get it that it is very still suspicious as a whole medical team, nurses, doctors, physicians assistants, nurse practitioners, dietitians, the techs, everyone has to succumb under these big bodies if they want to practice what they want to do, and that is help people. And unfortunately, some dietitians do get wrapped under and caught under the wave of these big bodies who are not helping us, as a profession. It can be really hard to fend for ourselves as dietitians who need to get the credentials to practice and help people, but also don't necessarily agree with every single thing that big food is telling us to do. And some dietitians, I think, get wrapped up in all of that, especially if they get into sales and sales representing these companies and being advocates for these companies, trying to say that this food is a health food and you should eat it. And then other people who have looked at the literature, who have their own medical conditions and nutrition issues, who have tried other things that completely contradict what these dietitians on TV are saying, they are obviously going to question, why are these dietitians saying Cheerios is the best breakfast for me when I feel best when I eat eggs, ham, and a plate of fruit for breakfast? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if any of this is making any sense, but I hope it's coherent when I go back and edit it. So I guess what I'm saying is it's really hard to distinguish yourself as an individual nutrition practitioner from the big food, big pharma umbrella, when much of our fundamental biochemistry and medical nutrition therapy is taught in nutrition school, which is also unfortunately influenced at least a little bit by big food and big pharma. So when people say going to school to become a dietitian is a waste of time, it is not. There is so much else we learn in school, not just that, okay, these foods are good, these foods are bad, or all foods are good, all foods fit, whatever. You know, everything you see on the media that's kind of for the general public. We learn so much more than that in clinical, in food service, in community nutrition, in food science even, the chemistry of food. We learn so much about that, and it's not just narrowed into us telling the public what to eat. In clinical dietetics, we are supposed to heal people from injury, illness, and help them recover from surgery so they can be discharged from the hospital faster. It's a totally different realm. Renal dietitians help people with kidney disease, totally transform their diet so that they can live as long as they can, minimize the repercussions from their disease. Then other dietitians in private practice can have totally different approaches that may match your philosophy. Like if you're vegan, they might have some excellent recommendations on vegan lifestyles. Some people just don't know the scope of what dietitians do and can do. It's not just minimized to promoting these certain foods and having opinions on what's best for your health versus another. I think clinical dietetics is something that's maybe the least understood. If you're outside of the healthcare profession especially, it is way more healthcare focused, I guess, way more in the nitty-gritty of healing illness and injury than just promoting healthy lifestyles. So all this to say, I do not blame people who see these dietitians on the media and say, do not listen to them, or becoming a dietitian is a waste of time. It's easy to see one dietitian or a few dietitians who are saying some interesting things and just blanket statements say all dietitians are bad. Not really the case here. Sorry, my alarm just went off and stopped my video. Also, anecdotally, I've heard of people with gluten intolerance in the US who travel to Europe and then suddenly they can eat all the bread and pasta they want. That is very suspicious to me. And these are only stories, only anecdotes I see on Instagram and things like that, but I've seen quite a few. And so in that case, maybe it's not about gluten intolerance at all. It's about the farming processes, the pesticides used here, Roundup, the composition of wheat grown in US soils, and agriculture is run by a totally different body in Europe, in different European countries. And so it is suspicious when you see those stories compared between countries whose governing bodies are different for farming practices and our food systems. Just saying. I know you guys see it. If you're watching this video and you're interested in nutrition and things like that, I know you guys see it too. And it is interesting. At the same time, we are always learning something new in nutrition science. It is a very brand new field of study, so it is always changing. And so sometimes school can be a little behind when the textbooks aren't up to date, whatever. But more and more, especially in masters, we're using way more of the published articles to use in our nutrition knowledge base instead of textbooks. I know all of my classes this quarter are not using textbooks at all, which is cool. I don't know if that's just how it is in this master's program, but I think that may be more relevant than using a textbook from 2010, you know what I'm saying? It's just a little truth bomb. I'm very excited. Nutrition is so interesting. It applies to everybody. I hope this made sense, and if it kind of spoke to you, let me know in the comments what you think about the realm of dietetics, nutrition practices, and everything. It's important to be honest about things like that and not just, even though I'm in nutrition school and I am relying on graduating, getting a job, making my own money as a dietitian at some point, probably, it can be scary to speak out on some of these things that people find suspicious. And I am all about just, life is short. I know some nutrition students or dietitians may be scared to speak out on some of these things. Not that we're told behind the scenes you need to promote Pepsi and Quaker and Kellogg's and everything once you become a dietitian, no. But we are taught to follow always evidence-based practice, which can be really iffy when you're talking about your suspicions and opinions about who's telling us these evidence-based practices. It can start to sound like, oh, if you're suspicious about evidence-based practice, or if you're questioning evidence-based practice, then we need to keep an eye on you as an upcoming dietitian or as a dietitian. That can be kind of scary, especially for someone who's not a dietitian yet. But I think it's important to speculate on these things, especially because I don't want to be fake at the same time about being suspicious. So as a student, as an intern, as a future dietitian, I will still follow evidence-based practice, but it doesn't mean that we can still hunt in the literature and see what changes as the years go on. And that's just kind of speaking more to people who are familiar with the realm of dietetics and stuff like that. But to the general public, maybe that sounds equally as suspicious, but yeah, anyway, whatever. I need to go, I think. I'm just rambling at this point. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know whatever you're thinking. I don't even know what you will be thinking after watching this video. This like had no planning whatsoever, but anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you later.